I rejoice in the opportunity of assuring you that I will always retain grateful remembrance of the cordial welcome I experienced on my visit to Newport from all classes of citizens.
The purpose of the Lower Manhattan Historical Society is to educate people about the very rich history of Lower Manhattan. And as part of that process, one of my specific projects that I very much want to do relates to the reading of George Washington's Newport letter. We're standing here in front of Fauncey's Tavern because this is the site that is most closely associated with George Washington in Lower Manhattan. It was here on Evacuation Day that they had their dinner. It was here that George Washington gave his farewell address to his men. But what most people don't know about George Washington was that he also was a pioneer in religious tolerance. And it was after the American Revolution, the Jewish community, which had very staunchly supported the Patriot cause, wanted a statement of who they were and what their position was. Remember, Jews had been discriminated against throughout Europe and throughout the world for thousands of years, and the question was it going to be any different here in the United States? Now, I've asked the Temple of Universal Judaism, of which I am a member, last year sponsored a ceremony here in honor of the Newport letter, and I'm going to ask the Vice President of the Temple to come up and talk about George Washington, talk about the Temple of Universal Judaism, and B, the relationship of George Washington to the Newport letter. And at the end of the ceremony, we're going to have someone read the Newport letter, which I think is a seminal document in American, certainly in American Jewish history. It's the most important document, and a very important document in the history of the United States and religious tolerance.
It is now no more that toleration is spoken of as if it were the indulgence of one class of people that another enjoyed the exercise of their inherent natural rights. For, happily, the government of the United States, which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens in giving.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Pollack. TUJ Elohim is a congregation that's also a sponsor of this event, and I'm the vice president of the board. TUJ Elohim is a reformed congregation that was established just over 40 years ago on the principles of tolerance for people of different racial and religious backgrounds. In 1974, after 20 years as a rabbi of congregations in Honolulu and New Orleans, and as an Army chaplain, Rabbi Roy Rosenberg founded TUJ on Park Avenue as a haven for interfaith couples, to include people historically excluded from congregations, such as intermarried couples, Jews by choice, non-Jews, and people of all sexual orientations and backgrounds. The TUJ mission, as well as the life and ideals of its founder, Rabbi Roy Rosenberg, are in harmony with the principles embraced by George Washington's Newport letter. Led by Rabbi Ari Fridkus, TUJ Elohim is a warm and friendly congregation. It's located at 1010 Park Avenue at 85th Street. It's an inclusive congregation which, as it is written in the book of Isaiah, TUJ is truly a house for all people.
This area is probably one of the most historic for Jewish people in the country, certainly in the United States, and most Jews don't know about it. Elise Pollack is going to tell us about the history of this area and the history of the Jews here in New York.
May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit safely under his own vine and fig tree.
In 1730, Congregation Sharith Israel, the first synagogue in North America, was erected 2 blocks from here on South William Street. There is no plaque commemorating this important landmark. Jacob Franks, a prominent merchant, was Sharif Israel's first chairman. His daughter and wife, Abigail Franks, his daughter with his wife, Abigail Franks, Phila Franks, became the source of some controversy in the community when, in 1742, Phila secretly married Oliver Delancey, the son of Stephen Delancey, then the owner of the mansion where the Francis Tavern now resides. The Delancey family was a wealthy and prominent member of New York City's socio-political elite. The Franks family was also one of the city's leading families, not only within the small Jewish community, but also within the larger elite social circles, secular social circle, comprised of such prominent families as the Delanceys, Livingstons, and Van Cortlandts. Phila's mother, Abigail, upon learning of the marriage, refused to ever speak to her daughter again and wrote in her letters of a sense of betrayal and pain. Abigail had received a formal classical education, rare for Jewish women in the 18th century, who were expected to devote all of their time to home and family life. She prided herself on her attendance at Sharif Israel and strict observance of the Sabbath and dietary laws. Oliver and Phila Delancey eventually returned to England with their children in 1779, one of whom became a general in the British Army. As it turned out, none of Abigail Frank's children would ever become active in Jewish civic life. However, one of Abigail's sister's sons, Gershom Mendes Sejas, was one of the most noted early American Jews.
Now, Gabriel Pollack, son of Jonathan and Elise Pollack, is now going to talk about Gershom Mendes Sejas, who was one of the most important Jewish figures here in New York and in the country, and is virtually unknown by most Jews today.
Gershom Mendes Sejas, born in 1745, was known as the first native-born American minister of any religious denomination. While technically not an ordained rabbi, he became the Hazan or minister of Congregation Sharif Israel in 1768 at age 22. He was of mixed Ashkenazic and Sephardic background, mirroring the makeup of the congregations of New York City and Philadelphia at the time. He was strongly pro-patriot at a time when many of the leading families of wealth of New York City remained loyalists, and for this became known as the Patriot Jewish Minister of the American Revolution, or more succinctly, the Patriot Rabbi. In 1780, rather than stay in New York City under British occupation, Sejas led the congregation to Philadelphia, where he helped establish and became minister of Congregation Mikveh Israel. Sejas returned with Sharif Israel to New York City after the end of the British occupation in 1783. Later, Gershom and his brother Moses both participated in George Washington's inauguration as the first president of the United States. Moses was the president of the Newport congregation, which fought Israel at the time of President Washington's visit, and addressed Washington an historic letter of welcome. Their brother Benjamin was one of the founders of the New York Stock Exchange. Gershom established the Thanksgiving Day sermon, delivered on the first day of Thanksgiving, and prayer proclaimed by President Washington on November 26, 1789. In one such sermon he preached, "I conceive we as Jews are more called upon to return thanks to benign goodness in placing us in such a country where we are free to act according to dictates of conscience and where no exception is taken from the following principles of our religion." Gershom remained as leader of Congregation Sharif Israel until 1818, where was a trustee of Columbia College and a renowned philanthropist who dedicated his life to serving the poor.
Talking about the Newport letter itself, it was really the Sejas brothers, Gershom here in New York and Moses up in Newport, who were very interested in having George Washington as the chief executive of the United States and the first president to make a specific statement of what the position of the Jews was. And Washington selected a ceremonial visit to Newport, which had been devastated by the Revolutionary War and actually never came back. But at its Toro synagogue, which is still standing today and still is one, he wrote a letter to the congregation, and that letter is still read today, on the anniversary of his visit to Newport. And I think we're going to read it right now. This is Miss Caroline Kaplan.
Gentlemen, while I receive with much satisfaction your address replete with expressions of esteem, I rejoice in the opportunity of assuring you that I will always retain grateful remembrance of the cordial welcome I experienced on my visit to Newport from all classes of citizens. The reflection on the days of difficulty and danger which are past is rendered the more sweet from a consciousness that they are succeeded by days of uncommon prosperity and security. If we have the wisdom to make the best use of the advantages with which we are now favored, we cannot fail, under the just administration of a good government, to become a great and happy people. The citizens of the United States have a right to applaud themselves for having given to mankind examples of an enlarged and liberal policy, a policy worthy of imitation. All possesses alike liberty of conscience and immunities of citizenship. It is now no more that toleration is spoken of as if it were the indulgence of one class of people that another enjoyed the exercise of their inherent natural rights. For, happily, the government of the United States, which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens in giving it on all occasions their effectual support. It would be inconsistent with the frankness of my character not to avow that I am pleased with your favorable opinion of my administration and fervent wishes for my felicity. May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit safely under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid. May the Father of all mercies scatter light and not darkness upon our paths, and make us all in our several vocations useful here, and in his own due time and way everlastingly happy.
Okay, thank you. Now, I believe that if George Washington had done nothing else but said those 11 words, I give to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, he would deserve the position that he holds in American history today, since that is central to our existence. Thank you.